Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help. My heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up. Fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help. My heart in distress longs for joy. by thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help, my heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up, fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help, my heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up, fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by By thy blood I'm saved.
सामने हाँ ये यहाँ बैठेगा सब यहाँ पे है साइड में बस बात सबों को स्वागत है आज के इस वर्चुअल एडोरेशन में। और यूजुअली हम वर्चुअल एडोरेशन सुबह करते हैं, लेकिन काफ़ी टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम की वजह से हम आज वर्चुअल एडोरेशन से शुरुआत करेंगे, जो कि हिंदी में हम करते हैं। एंड उसके बाद हम वर्चुअल होली मास करेंगे और सबसे आखिरी में रोज़री, जैसे कि ये महीना जो है वो माता मरियम के लिए हम डेडिकेट किए हैं, हमारा कैथलिक चर्च डेडिकेट करता है। तो सबों से अनुरोध है जो भी अभी बैठने वाले हैं या फिर बैठ चुके हैं कि आप अपना फ़ोन को साइलेंट मोड में रख लें। आइए हम सब क्रूस का चिन्ह बनाएं। पिता पुत्र पवित्र आत्मा के नाम पर आमीन। आइए हम सब खड़े हो जाएं पास का अंशलूस विनती के लिए।
ईश्वर की रानी आनंद कर, हालेलुया। जिसको तूने पैदा किया, हालेलुया। वह अपने कथन अनुसार जी उठा, हालेलुया। परमेश्वर से हमारे लिए प्रार्थना कर, हालेलुया। आनंद मना प्रसन्न हो हे कुंवारी मरिया, हालेलुया। प्रभु सचमुच ही उठा, हालेलुया। हम प्रार्थना करें। हे परमेश्वर, तूने अपने पुत्र हमारे प्रभु यीशु ख्रिस्त के पुनरुत्थान से संसार को आनंद दिया है। हमारी यह प्रार्थना सुन और ऐसा कर कि हम उनकी मां कुंवारी मरियम के द्वारा अनंत जीवन का आनंद प्राप्त कर सके। आमीन।
आइए हम सब महान सैक्रामेंट को दंडवत करें। पिता नाम की जय जयकार करो, पिता नाम की जय जयकार, पिता
नाम की जय जयकार करो,
पिता नाम की जय जयकार,
जय जयकार करो, जय जयकार करो।
पिता नाम की जय जयकार, जय जयकार करो, जय जयकार
जयकार करो, जय जयकार करो, आत्मा नाम की जय जयकार, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार करो, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार करो, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार, जय जयकार करो, जय जयकार करो, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार, जय जयकार करो, जय जयकार करो, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार, पिता नाम की जय जयकार करो, पिता नाम की जय जयकार, पुत्र नाम की जय जयकार करो, पुत्र नाम की जय जयकार, आत्मा नाम की जय जयकार करो, आत्मा नाम की जय जयकार, त्रित्व नाम की जय जयकार करो, त्रित्व नाम की जय जयकार, पिता नाम की जय जयकार, पुत्र नाम की जय जयकार, आत्मा नाम की जय जयकार, तत्व नाम की जय जयकार।
धन्यवाद ईश्वर, धन्यवाद त्रित्वमय ईश्वर, हम सबों को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए, हम सबों को आप में विश्वास करते हुए रखने के लिए धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं ईश्वर, हमारे परिवार के लिए, हमारे प्रियजनों के लिए, हमारे मित्रों के लिए, हमारे भाई बहनों के लिए। हाँ ईश्वर, तू धन्यवाद के योग्य है। हाँ ईश्वर, तू ही सिर्फ है जिन्हें हम धन्यवाद दे सकते हैं। हम पूरे मन से, पूरे दिल से, पूरे तन से हम यहाँ पे हैं ताकि आपको हम धन्यवाद दे सकें इस जीवन के लिए ईश्वर, क्योंकि इस जीवन से आपने हमको और करीब लाया है, आपने हमको बांधा है आपके प्रेम से। हाँ ईश्वर, मैं आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ और हम यहाँ पे जितने भी उपस्थित हैं इस घड़ी, इस मोमेंट में, इस पैंडमिक के दौरान, इस कोरोना वायरस जो महामारी चल रही है इस दौरान, ये जो मूवमेंट बांधा है ईश्वर आपने त्रित्व में ईश्वर, मैं आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ। हम सब आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं। हम अपने परिवार के लिए भी धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं क्योंकि उनके बिना आज हम यहाँ पे इकट्ठा नहीं हो सकते। हाँ ईश्वर, धन्यवाद कि वे आपको सुने और इसके कारण आज हम यहाँ पे सब एकत्र हैं। हाँ ईश्वर, हम सबों के ऊपर उस महती दया के लिए धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं ईश्वर, क्योंकि उस महती दया की वजह से आज हमारा विश्वास जो भी है वो है और हम इस विश्वास से आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं। हाँ ईश्वर, हम सबों को हेल्प कर, हम सबों को मदद कर कि हम इस विश्वास में जो अभी है हमारे पास, जो हमें इकट्ठा होने में सहयोग किया है, जो हमें एक दूसरे को सुनने में सहयोग किया है, जो हमें एक दूसरे को जानने में सहयोग किया है। हाँ ईश्वर, उस विश्वास के लिए हम आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं और हम यही विश्वास से आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, आपके लिए कार्य करना चाहते हैं ईश्वर। हम सबों को मदद कर ईश्वर कि हम इस विश्वास में दिन ब दिन आगे बढ़ते जाएं। हम उस कुएं की तरह नहीं या फिर उस पोखरी की तरह नहीं जहाँ पे पानी कभी भी हलचल नहीं होता है। हम उस पोखरा या फिर उस कुएं के सदृश बनना चाहते हैं जहाँ पे लोग आएं और वो हलचल हमेशा रहे। हाँ, ईश्वर इंग्लिश में स्टैग्नेंट वर्ड यूज़ करते हैं, हम वो स्टैग्नेंसी में नहीं रहना चाहते हैं। हमारा विश्वास और आगे बढ़े, और हम जानते हैं ईश्वर ये विश्वास कहीं ना कहीं पोख्ता हो सकता है तो आपके वचनों के द्वारा। हाँ ईश्वर, आप अपने पवित्र आत्मा हम सबों के ऊपर भेजें, लेकिन हम उसे सुन नहीं पाते हैं, और इसीलिए हमारे पास ये वचन है, ये बाइबल वचन है। हाँ पवित्र आत्मा, हम सबों पे विराजमान कर, ताकि हम जो वचन पढ़ने वाले हैं उसे अच्छी तरह से हम पढ़ सकें, जो वचन हम सुनने वाले हम अच्छी तरह से सुन सकें और अपने हृदय में उसे अंकित कर सकें, ताकि हमारा विश्वास आज जो है कुछ क्षण में उसमें बढ़ोतरी हो। हाँ पवित्र आत्मा, आप हमारे साथ रहिए और हमें अगुवाई कीजिए, इसके लिए हम प्रार्थना करते हैं। हे पिता, हमारी प्रार्थना सुन।
नबी ईसाइयस का ग्रंथ अध्याय 41 वर्सेस 13 to 17। अध्याय 49 वर्सेस 13 to 18। आकाश जयकार करे, पृथ्वी उल्लसित हो और पर्वत आनंद के गीत गाएं, क्योंकि प्रभु अपनी प्रजा को सांत्वना देता है और अपने दीनहीन लोगों पर दया करता है। सियोन यह कह रही थी, प्रभु ने मुझे छोड़ दिया है, प्रभु ने मुझे भुला दिया है। क्या स्त्री अपना दूध मुहा बच्चा भुला सकती है? क्या वह अपनी गोद के पुत्र पर तरस नहीं खाएगी? यदि वह भुला भी दे तो भी मैं तुम्हें कभी नहीं भुलाऊंगा। मैंने तुम्हें अपनी हथेलियों पर अंकित किया है। तुम्हारी चार दीवारी निरंतर मेरी आंखों के सामने है। तुम्हारे निर्माता दौड़ते हुए तुम्हारे पास आ रहे हैं, जिन्होंने तुम्हें उजाड़ा और विनष्ट किया, वे तुम्हारे यहाँ से जा रहे हैं। तुम चारों ओर दृष्टि दौड़ाकर देखो कि सब एकत्र होकर तुम्हारे पास आ रहे हैं। प्रभु कहता है, अपने अस्तित्व की शपथ, तुम आभूषण की तरह उन सबों को पहनोगी। तुम वधू की तरह उनसे अपना श्रृंगार करोगी। यह प्रभु की वाणी है।
ईश्वर को धन्यवाद।
आइए ये जो सुंदर वचन हमें आज मिला है उसे हम सोचें, मनन चिंतन करें इस वचन के ऊपर में। आज का ये जो वचन नबी साइंस ग्रंथ से लिया गया है और ये मेरा समहाउ फेवरेट सा वर्ड ऑफ गॉड इसमें आता है। एक नहीं बल्कि 2-3 यहाँ पे आते हैं और खासकर जो रिफ्लेक्शन वही आता है कि क्या स्त्री अपने दूध मुहा बच्चा भूल सकती है? क्या वह अपने गोद के पुत्र पर तरस नहीं खाएगी? यदि वह भुला भी दे तो भी मैं तुम्हें कभी नहीं भुलाऊंगा। और ये चीज़ में काफ़ी मुझे बहुत टच किया था और बेसिकली अभी मेरे साथ ऐसे ही कुछ चल ही रहा है काइंड ऑफ। जब 2004 से 2008 तक मेरा कैंसर का फाइट जब मेरा चल रहा था, उस वक्त मेरे साथ मेरी मम्मी थी एंड शी डिड एवरीथिंग। उसने मेरा साथ कभी नहीं छोड़ा और कहीं ना कहीं उसका फेथ, उसका प्यार जो था वो मुझे वापस लेके आया और इस काबिल बनाया कि आज मैं यहाँ पे हूँ, अपना टीम है एंड वी आर एबल टू डू दिस एडोरेशन। मास हुआ या फिर रोज़री हुआ। लेकिन आज के दिन में मेरी माँ कहीं ना कहीं डिमेंशिया की पेशेंट बन गई है और ये जो वर्ड्स था इसके ऊपर मैं बहुत पहले मैं सोचा करता था कि ऐसा कभी हो सकता है क्या। लेकिन आज के दिन पे डिमेंशिया ऐसी बीमारी है कि वो कभी भी भूल सकती है चीज़ों को। और लेकिन फिर भी दूसरे साइड में बीइंग अ कैंसर सर्वाइवर, ऊपर से हेपेटाइटिस बी पॉजिटिव रहते हुए दूसरा साइड मैं देख पाता हूँ ईश्वर की महिमा को मैं महसूस कर पा रहा हूँ, बिकॉज मेरी वाइफ वो प्रेग्नेंट है, शी इज़ इन सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर, 5 महीना, एंड वो हर वक्त मुझे वही बता रहे हैं कि मैं तेरे साथ हूँ, चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए। और नेक्स्ट चीज़ वही आता है कि डायरेक्टली इस वर्ड ऑफ गॉड में लिखे हैं कि मैंने तुम्हें अपनी हथेलियों पर अंकित किया है, तुम्हारी 4 दीवारी निरंतर मेरी आँखों के सामने है। ये बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग फील करवाता है, इवन दो मम्मी का अगर ऐसे हाल भी है, एंड आई नो कि वो कितना प्यार करता है। एंड अगर वो 4 दीवारी, जो कि वो मेरा घर है, एंड शी इज़ देयर, आई नो कि गॉड हैं हमें हेल्प करने के लिए। आई नो कि मेरी वाइफ के साथ हम जब आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, फैमिली प्लानिंग का सोच जो हमारा है, आई नो दैट ही इज़ देयर। और बहुत ही डिफ़िकल्ट होता है सर्टेन टाइम्स, बट ये जो वर्ड ऑफ गॉड आज के दिन पे मिला है, मुझे लगता है कि काफ़ी लोगों को ये हेल्प करेगा कि उसने हमारे नाम अपने हथेली पे लिखा है। एंड जब नाम लिखा है हथेली पे, तो ऐसे नहीं कि कोई पेन में लिख दिया तो वो रह जाएगा, नहीं, अंकित किया है कहीं ना कहीं, जो वी कैन से कि टैटू काइंड ऑफ। सो ही लव्स अस सो मच कि देखा जाए तो हथेली में अंकित किया गया है हमारा नाम। तो ये जो भी वचन है हमें कहीं ना कहीं सांत्वना देता है, कहीं ना कहीं हमें होप देता है, ताकि हम अपने विश्वास में स्टैग्नेंट ना रहें, हम अपने विश्वास में स्थिर ना बन जाएं, स्तंभ ना बन जाएं, स्टैच्यू ना हो जाएं। क्योंकि विश्वास जब हम बोलते हैं तो वो लिविंग चीज़ है, वो डेड नहीं है विश्वास। और जब हम स्थिर हो जा रहे हैं कहीं पे, स्टैच्यू बन जा रहे हैं किसी चीज़ में, या मोनोटोनसली हम अपना लाइफ को लेके जा रहे हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं हमें सोचने का ज़रूरत है कि हमारा विश्वास है या नहीं है, हम किस तरह से अपने विश्वास को आगे बढ़ाएं। और ये जो वचन है, ये कहीं ना कहीं हमें बार बार हमें प्रिक करेगा, बार बार हमें थोड़ा सा चोट पहुंचाएगा, सोचने में मजबूर करेगा। लेकिन हम सोच रहे हैं या नहीं सोच रहे हैं, वो हमारे पे डिपेंड करता है कि हमारा जो ईश्वर है, त्रित्व में ईश्वर है, वे हमारे साथ हर वक्त है। लेकिन क्या हम उनका प्रेजेंस को महसूस कर पा रहे हैं? क्या हम अपने हर एक सेकंड, अपना हर एक ब्रेथ जो हम लोग ले रहे हैं, क्या हम वो लाइफ जब हम बोल रहे हैं, क्या वो विश्वास के कारण है, या फिर हमारा कुछ मोनोटोनस एक सोच है, या फिर एक मोनोटोनस हमने कुछ प्रिंसिपल बना दिया है, उसके वजह से हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। तो आइए आज हम जब सैक्रामेंट के सामने हैं, तो हमें मांगना है ईश्वर से, इस वचन को लेके अपने हृदय में अंकित करके मांगना है कि तू है हमारे साथ और हमेशा रहेगा। और ये जो रिलेशनशिप कायम हमने किया है उनके साथ, उसे लास्ट ब्रेथ तक हमें लेके जाना है। जिस तरह से वो मेरे लाइफ में है, कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि वे आप सबों के लाइफ में भी हैं, लेकिन हमें महसूस करना बहुत ही ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है। सो आइए आज हम जब यहाँ पे उपस्थित हैं, हम अपने निवेदनों को सामने में लेके आए। हाँ ईश्वर, धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं आपके इस विश्वास के लिए जिसकी वजह से हम यहाँ पे हैं। और आपने कहा है कि चाहे आपकी माँ आपको भूल जाए, लेकिन आप नहीं भूलोगे। हाँ ईश्वर, आपने मेरे लाइफ में किया है। और काफ़ी सारे लोग हिचकिचाते हैं, पता नहीं है आप हो या नहीं हो। लेकिन ईश्वर, आप हो, इसीलिए हम सब हैं। और इसीलिए मैं विनती करना चाहता हूँ खासकर कि जिन लोगों का भी 50-50 चलता है, जिन लोगों को भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, आपके चेले सेंट थॉमस जैसे क्वेश्चंस आते होंगे, लेकिन ईश्वर, जब आपके साथ कोई है और आपको जो क्वेश्चन भी पूछता है, आई नो दैट इट विल बी टर्निंग टुवर्ड्स पॉजिटिव, वो सकारात्मक वे में वो टर्न करेगा, लेकिन आपके पास आना ज़रूरी है। तो ईश्वर, उनके लिए योजना बना, उनके लिए प्लान कर कि ये लोग आपके साथ जुड़ सकें और क्वेश्चन इधर उधर ना करें, लेकिन आपके जो विश्वासी जन हैं, जो आपके बंदे हैं, जो आप में चलने पसंद करते हैं, उन लोगों के साथ इनका मीटअप हो और उनका जीवन बदल जाए। इसके लिए हम प्रार्थना करते हैं।
हे पिता, हमारी प्रार्थना सुन।
हे प्रभु, हम प्रार्थना करते हैं जितने भी मिशनरीज और ले पर्सन जो कि हे प्रभु, हम प्रार्थना करते हैं कि जितने भी मिशनरीज और ले पर्सन्स जो कि ऑर्फन रन कर रहे हैं, हे प्रभु उन्हें मदद कर और उनके साथ रह, जिससे कि वो जितने भी लाइफ उनके अंडर में है उसको अच्छे से वो लोग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले सके, ग्रो करवा सके आप में, और हेल्थ उनके साथ रहिएगा, जिससे कि सोसाइटी के जितने भी चैलेंजेस है, सिचुएशन आता है लॉर्ड, उसको अच्छे से टैकल करते हुए उन बच्चों या जितने भी लोग उनके अंडर में रहते हैं उनको अच्छे से ग्रो करवा सके और एक अच्छा ह्यूमन डिग्निटी लाइफ दिलवा सके। इसके लिए हम आपसे प्रार्थना करते हैं।
हे पिता, हमारी प्रार्थना सुन। हे पिता ईश्वर, मैं उन सभी प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज़ के लिए प्रार्थना करना चाहती हूँ जो एक लाइफ को अपने वूम में कैरी कर रहे हैं। प्रभु, उन सबों के ऊपर अपने पवित्र आत्मा को भेज दे, ताकि वही पवित्र आत्मा उन्हें गाइड करे कि वो इस समय में, इस गर्भवती के समय में वो किस तरीके से अपने आप को आप किस तरह से अपने आप को आप प्रभु पर, ईश्वर पर इंक्लाइन कर सकें, और प्रभु उनके सोच को वही पवित्र आत्मा से प्रेरित कर, उनके काम उदाम को, उनके बोली वचन को वही पवित्र आत्मा से प्रेरित कर, ताकि हर सोच विचार, बोली वचन और काम उदाम उस बच्चे को सही तरीके से बढ़ने में सहायता प्रदान कर सके प्रभु। और सभी गर्भवती महिलाओं को एक अच्छा शारीरिक स्वास्थ्य, मानसिक स्वास्थ्य और आत्मिक स्वास्थ्य प्रदान कर। इसके लिए मैं आपसे निवेदन करती हूँ।
हे
पिता, हमारी प्रार्थना सुन।
हे प्रभु, हम उन सभी लोगों के लिए प्रार्थना करते हैं जो अभी डिस्क्रिमिनेट किए जा रहे हैं, उनके कास्ट को लेकर, उनके कलर को लेकर, उनके लैंग्वेज को लेकर। हे प्रभु, और जो लोग भी उन्हें डिस्क्रिमिनेट करते हैं प्रभु, उन्हें ये समझ दीजिए, उन्हें बुद्धि दीजिए, ताकि वो समझ सकें कि आपने हम सभी मनुष्यों को अपने स्वरूप में बनाया है। और प्रभु, हमें यह समझ दीजिए, बुद्धि दीजिए, ताकि हम सभी लोगों को अपने भाई और बहन के ऐसे मानते हुए हम आगे बढ़ सकें, आपके प्यार में आगे बढ़ सकें। इसलिए हम प्रार्थना करते हैं।
हे पिता, हमारी प्रार्थना सुन।
आइए हम जितने भी निवेदन हैं हमारे हृदय में, हम जानते हैं ईश्वर उन सारे निवेदनों को जानते हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हम अपने आप को समर्पित करें, अपने थॉट्स को समर्पित करें, और समर्पित करते हुए ये बोलें कि प्रभु, मेरा नहीं पर तेरा इच्छा पूरी हो। और बोलते हुए हम अपने आप को समर्पित करते हुए हमारे प्रभु यीशु ख्रीस्त जो प्रार्थना सिखाया अपने चेलों को, वो प्रार्थना हम दोहराएं। हे पिता हमारे
जो स्वर्ग में है, तेरा नाम पवित्र किया जाए, तेरा राज्य आए, तेरी इच्छा जैसे स्वर्ग में है वैसे इस पृथ्वी पर भी पूरी हो। हमारा प्रतिदिन का आहार आज हमें दे, और हमारे अपराध हमें क्षमा कर, जैसे हम भी अपने अपराधियों को क्षमा करते हैं, और हमें परीक्षा में ना डाल, परंतु बुराई से बचा। आमीन।
आइए हम एक गीत गाकर प्रभु की आराधना करें।
आराधना हो मेरे यीशु की।
धन्यवाद ईश्वर इस शुभ मुहूर्त के लिए, इस शुभ घड़ी के लिए। ईश्वर हम सही में आपकी स्तुति और आराधना करना चाहते हैं, सिर्फ बोली वचन से नहीं ईश्वर, लेकिन हमारे सोच विचार से, हमारे काम उदाम से, हमारे लाइफस्टाइल से ईश्वर हम तेरी स्तुति और आराधना करना चाहते हैं। आज जो हम यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं और जितने भी दिन हमने आराधना किया है आपका, शायद ही हम सिर्फ बोली वचन ही में करते हैं, लेकिन आज जब हम यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं ईश्वर हमारे साथ, हमारे संग चल तू, ताकि हम सही में वो आराधना और स्तुति और महिमा निरंतर कर सके, अपने सोच विचार के द्वारा, अपने काम उदाम के द्वारा, अपने लाइफस्टाइल के द्वारा सब कुछ स्पीक करे, सब कुछ बोले। जब हम इस अर्थ में चल रहे हैं, जब हम इस धरती में चल रहे हैं, हाँ ईश्वर आपका साथ ही चाहिए। और जैसे पॉल लिखते हैं कि आपका अनुग्रह ही काफ़ी है हम सबों के लिए, योर ग्रेस इज सफिशिएंट। हाँ ईश्वर हमें उस ग्रेस के माध्यम से आगे बढ़ा, हमें मौका दे ताकि हम आपको सुन सकें और आगे बढ़ सकें। धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं ईश्वर कि आपने इन सारे बातों को हम सबों को सुनाया है एक दूसरे के द्वारा। आपने हम सबों को इन बातों से आगे बढ़ाया है इतने सालों से, और आज जब हम यहाँ पे उपस्थित हैं, हाँ ईश्वर प्लीज़ हमारे साथ रह और हमारी अगुवाई कर। आइए हम सब घुटने टेकेंगे और इस महान सैक्रामेंट को दंडवत करेंगे। आइए हम सब दंडवत करें।
दिव्य स्तुति। धन्य परमेश्वर,
धन्य परमेश्वर,
धन्य उसका पवित्र नाम,
धन्य उसका पवित्र नाम,
धन्य यीशु क्रिस्त सच परमेश्वर और सच मनुष्य,
धन्य यीशु क्रिस्त सच परमेश्वर और सच मनुष्य,
धन्य यीशु का नाम,
धन्य यीशु का नाम,
धन्य उसका अति पवित्र हृदय,
धन्य उसका अति पवित्र हृदय,
धन्य उसका परम मूल्यवान रक्त,
धन्य उसका परम मूल्यवान रक्त,
धन्य परम पवित्र संस्कार में यीशु,
धन्य परम पवित्र संस्कार में यीशु,
धन्य पवित्र आत्मा हमारा सहायक,
धन्य पवित्र आत्मा हमारा सहायक,
धन्य अति पवित्र मरियम परमेश्वर की माँ,
धन्य अति पवित्र मरियम परमेश्वर की माँ,
धन्य उसका पवित्र और निष्कलंक गर्भागमन,
धन्य उसका पवित्र और निष्कलंक गर्भागमन,
धन्य उसका प्रतापी उद्ग्रहण,
धन्य उसका प्रतापी उद्ग्रहण,
धन्य कुंवारी और माता मरियम का नाम,
धन्य कुंवारी और माता मरियम का नाम,
धन्य उसका अति शुद्ध वर संत यूसुफ,
धन्य उसका अति शुद्ध वर संत यूसुफ,
धन्य अपने दूतों और संतों में परमेश्वर,
धन्य अपने दूतों और संतों में परमेश्वर।
पिता और पुत्र और पवित्र आत्मा की महिमा होवे,
जैसे वह आदि में थी, अब है और अनंतकाल तक सदा रहेगी। आमीन।
हे निष्कलंक कुंवारी माँ मरिया,
हमारे लिए प्रार्थना कीजिए।
संत यूसुफ,
हमारे लिए प्रार्थना कीजिए।
संत होजे मारिया एस्क्रिवा,
हमारे लिए प्रार्थना कीजिए।
यीशु का अति पवित्र हृदय,
तेरा राज्य आए।
क्रूस का चिन्ह, पिता पुत्र और पवित्र आत्मा के नाम का, आमीन।
धन्य परमेश्वर, 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 ध
अभी कुछ क्षण में ही हम वर्चुअल होली मास हम शुरू करेंगे, जो कि इंग्लिश में हम यूजुअली हर दिन करते हैं। तो आप लोगों से अनुरोध है कि कुछ समय पश्चात जब हम इधर पे अपना ऑल्टर बना रहे हैं, आप म्यूज़िक को एंजॉय करिए और हम 2-3 मिनट में वापस आ रहे हैं। धन्यवाद।
Me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds, I'm healed. By thy blood, I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help. Spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help, my heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up, fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. By thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help, my heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up, fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help. My heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up. Fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption by thy wounds. I'm healed by thy blood. I'm saved. My soul in anguish cries for help. My heart in distress longs for joy. My life is in the grave of sin. I'm waiting, Lord, to be set free. Come, Lord Jesus, lift me up. Fill me with your joy. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me now. Let thy spirit abide in me. Let thy precious blood cover me In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my salvation. In thy holy cross, my Jesus, I find my redemption. affliction, by thy wounds I'm healed, by thy blood I'm saved. In thy holy cross, my Jesus.
Good evening, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to this virtual Holy Mass. This Mass was celebrated in Archdiocese of Toronto by Father Francis. Before beginning this virtual Holy Mass, I would request everyone to kindly put the mobile phones in silent mode or vibration mode. Let's make sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Entrance antiphon. Proclaim a joyful sound, and let it be heard. Proclaim to the ends of the earth, the Lord has freed his people. Alleluia. Let us all rise for the entrance hymn.
To God in gladness sing, how great His name. Give thanks to Him for His marvelous deeds. Alleluia, alleluia. The flame of love, the Spirit, the universe pervades. Through Him a new creation begins and never ends. To God in gladness sing, how great His name. Give thanks to Him for His marvelous deeds. Alleluia, alleluia. Like rain that falls from heaven and makes the earth bring forth His word, our heart refreshes. His law our life transforms. To God in gladness sing, how great His name. Give thanks to Him for His marvelous deeds. Alleluia, alleluia.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
The grace and peace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all.
And with your spirit.
Dear sisters and brothers, through the Gospel of today, Jesus says to us what He said to the disciples. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me because I live, you also live in me. Believing and trusting in the promise of God, let us prepare ourselves to participate in this Eucharist. Let us take a moment to acknowledge our own failures and weaknesses. Lord, your words are a lamp for our steps and a light for our path. Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
Let those who belong to you listen to your voice. Christ, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, you alone have the words of eternal life. Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
May Almighty God have mercy on us, forgive us our sins, and bring us to life everlasting.
Amen. Glory be to the Father,
O God, who in the celebration of Easter graciously give to the world the healing of heavenly remedies, show benevolence to your church that our present observance may benefit us for eternal life. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever.
Amen.
In today's first reading, we'll hear that Philip belongs to the group of 7 deacons, ordained to oversee the distribution of food, but turns out to be a messenger of the kingdom of God. First reading. A reading from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 8, verses 5 to 8 and 14 to 17. Philip went down to a city of Samaria and proclaimed to them the Christ. And the multitudes with one accord gave heed to what was said by Philip. When they heard him and saw the signs which he did, for unclean spirits came out of many who were possessed, crying with a loud voice, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was much joy in that city. Now, when the apostles at Jerusalem heard that Samaria had received the word of God, they sent to them Peter and John, who came down and prayed for them that they might receive the Holy Spirit. For it had not yet fallen on any of them, but they had only been baptized in the name of the Lord Jesus. Then they laid their hands on them, and they received the Holy Spirit. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. Sing the glory His name. Give to Him glorious praise. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. All the earth worships you. They sing praises to you. Sing praises to your name. Come and see what God has done. He is awesome in His deeds among the children of Adam. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. He turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the river on foot. There we rejoiced in Him who rules by His might forever. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth.
In today's second reading, we'll hear that Peter suggests that Christians are in real danger of suffering, but they can draw strength from the fact that Christ had also suffered.
Second reading. A reading from the first letter of Saint Peter, chapter 3, verses 15 to 18. In your hearts, reverence Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to make a defense to anyone who calls you to account for the hope that is in you. Yet, Do it with gentleness and reverence, and keep your conscience clear, so that when you are abused, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing right, if that should be God's will, than for doing wrong. For Christ also died for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Let us all rise for the acclamation.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All who love me will keep my word, and my Father will love them, and we will come to them. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
In today's Gospel, we'll hear that Christians need the assistance of the indwelling Spirit in their lives.
The Lord be with you.
And with your
A
spirit.
reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. The one who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. And the one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. In the past few months, as the whole world has been battling with the COVID-19, there has been fear, anxiety, and worries instilled in each of us. People are not certain what would happen, how long will it go, what am I to do? We have been seen through media, alone from our friends and family, that even people could not have a proper funeral or a burial. We have seen priests blessing the caskets, and there are no family members to be present. In a literal sense, people have become orphans due to this pandemic. In this scenario, how can we understand the gospel promise? I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. Can we trust and believe in the word of God? Where is God in all of these situations? For sure, at first sight, it might seem that God has abandoned us. But when we go through a little deeper, we can see the hand of God even in these moments of pain and suffering. God is present in each of us during this moment as He was present to Jesus as He was hanging upon the cross. Through the works of the frontline workers who are willing to give up themselves for the sake of the other, through the doctors and nurses, through the paramedics, through the truck drivers, those people who work in the grocery stores, we see the continuous action of God in our daily life. I will not leave you orphaned. At some point, we all want or even need to hear these words. They speak directly to some of our greatest fears and challenges: abandonment and isolation, loneliness and vulnerability. Jesus did not leave His disciples orphaned or desolate. By their faith, they were able to see Him, and through their obedience to His commandments, they were drawn into a loving communion with Him. At the same time, this does not mean that they would have only joys and would not have any suffering. We all know through history they did have their fair share. But because they believed and trusted in God, they were able to withstand all the persecution that came on their way. I will not leave you orphaned. That is the promise. Regardless of the circumstances of our lives, storms, death, separation, pandemic, we have never been and will never be abandoned by God. God came down to the world so that we have life in Him, so that we know Him, so that He can make us children of God. And He went on to conquer the eternal enemy, death, so that we all may have life in God in eternity. So we hear in the gospel, in a little while, the world will no longer see, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. Even though we may die to this world, we have a new life in Christ. For the world, our death may be an end, but for us believers, it is a beginning. For Christ has destroyed death and conquered the eternal life for us. This is good news for us. When we are able to believe and trust in God, when we are able to follow the commandments of God, we would have the continued presence of God in our lives. And even though we may go through difficulties, sufferings and shortcomings, God's presence can give us strength and the courage to live our life in hope and trust. For we are in the season of Easter, where Christ has conquered death and has given us new life. Please join us now as we gather and pray the Apostles' Creed. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, His only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended into hell. On the third day He rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty. From there He will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. Dear sisters and brothers, trusting in God, let us bring to God our needs and desires. Let's going to pray for world leaders, that they may continue to plan for the safety of each citizen. We pray to the Lord. Lord, hear our prayer. Let's pray for the church leaders, that they may continue to lead
We are really sorry for the technical issues. So we resume with the mass. Right. We'll resume with the mass now.
Let's pray for the church leaders, that they may continue to lead the people of God in faith, trust, and hope, even when we go through difficult moments like this pandemic. We pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Let's pray for each of us, that we may grow in our love towards God, towards one another. We pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
For all of those in the daily TV Mass community who have asked to be included in our prayer intentions book, especially those asking for peace in their families, we pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Let us take a short moment to bring to God our own needs and desires. We pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Gracious and loving God, we bring before you all these prayers through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
We offer you, O Lord divine, our humble gifts of bread and wine. We place them on your altar, Lord, today. Make them worthy of your love. Send your blessings from above. Sanctify these gifts, O Lord, we pray. We offer you, O Lord divine, our humble gifts of bread and wine. We place them on your altar, Lord, today. Make them worthy of your love. Send your blessings from above. Sanctify these gifts, O Lord, we pray. Oh, take our hearts, take our minds. Take all we have, make them thine. Oh, take our hearts, take our minds. Take all we have, make them thine.
Pray, dear brothers and sisters, my sacrifice and yours may be acceptable to God, the Almighty Father,
May the Lord accept the sacrifice at your hands.
for the praise and
Praise
glory
and
of
glory
His
of
name,
His name,
for our good of all His holy church. May our prayers rise up to you, O Lord, together with the sacrificial offerings, so that purified by your graciousness, we may be conformed to the mysteries of your mighty love. Through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit,
Lift up your hearts.
we lift them up to the
Let
Lord.
us give thanks to the Lord our God.
It is right and
It is
just.
truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, at all times to acclaim you, O Lord, but in this time above all, to love you yet more gloriously when Christ our Passover has been sacrificed. Through him the children of light rise to eternal life, and the halls of the heavenly kingdom are thrown open to the faithful. For his death is our ransom from death, and in his rising the life of all has risen. Therefore, overcome with the paschal joy, every land, every people excels in your praise, and even the heavenly powers with the angelic host sing together the unending hymn of your glory as they acclaim. You are indeed holy, O Lord, the fount of all holiness. Make holy therefore these gifts, we pray, by sending down your Spirit upon them like the dew fall, so that they may become for us the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. At the time he was betrayed and entered willingly into his passion, he took bread, giving thanks, broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you."
My Lord, my God.
In a similar way, when supper was ended, he took the chalice once more, giving thanks. He gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is a chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will be poured out for you and for many, for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me."
My Lord, my God.
The mystery of faith.
We proclaim your death, O Lord, and profess your resurrection until you come again.
Therefore, as we celebrate the memorial of his death and resurrection, we offer you, Lord, the bread of life and the chalice of salvation, giving thanks that you have held us worthy to be in your presence and minister to you. Humbly we pray that, partaking of the body and blood of Christ, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit. Remember, Lord, your church spread throughout the world, and bring her to the fullness of charity, together with Francis our Pope, Thomas our Bishop, and all the clergy. Remember also our brothers and sisters who have fallen asleep in the hope of the resurrection, and all who have died in your mercy. Welcome them into the light of your face. Have mercy on us all, we pray, that with the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of God, with the Blessed Joseph, her spouse, with the blessed apostles and all the saints who have pleased you throughout the ages, we may merit to be co-heirs to eternal life, and may praise and glorify you through your Son, Jesus Christ. Through him, and with him, and in him, O God, Almighty Father, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, All glory and honor is yours forever and ever. For the Saviour's command and affirmed by divine teaching, we dare to say,
Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
deliver us, Lord, we pray, from every evil. Graciously grant peace in our days, that by the help of your mercy we may be always free from sin and safe from all distress, as we await the blessed hope and the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ.
For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever.
Lord Jesus Christ, who said to your apostles, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you," look not on our sins, but on the faith of your church, and graciously grant her peace and unity in accordance with your will, who live and reign forever and ever.
Amen.
The peace of the Lord be with you always.
And with your
Let
spirit.
us offer each other the sign of peace.
Lamb of God,
You take away the sin of the world. Have mercy on us. Lamb of God, you take away the sin of the world. Have mercy on us. Lamb of God, you take away the sin of the world. Grant us peace.
Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb.
Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say a word, and my soul shall be healed.
as during this coronavirus pandemic, we are all locked down in our homes and we are not able to attend the Holy Mass and we are not able to receive the Holy Communion. So let us remember our first Holy Communion and our best moment when we receive the Communion. So let us partake in this act of spiritual communion and kindly repeat after me. O Immaculate Queen,
O Immaculate Queen
of heaven and earth,
of heaven and earth,
Mother of God,
Mother of God,
and mediator of every grace,
and mediator of every grace,
I believe that
I believe that
your dearly beloved Son,
your dearly beloved Son,
our Lord Jesus Christ,
our Lord Jesus Christ,
is truly,
really,
really, and substantially
and substantially
contained in the most holy sacrament.
contained in the most holy sacrament.
I love him
I love him
above all things
above all things,
and long to receive him
and long to receive him
in my heart.
in my heart.
Since now
Since now
I cannot receive him
I cannot receive him
sacramentally,
sacramentally,
be so good
be so good
to place him
to place him
spiritually
in
my soul, and never permit me
to
to be separated from him.
be separated from him.
Amen.
Amen. Make me clean and holy like you are. Make me pure, pure as light. Make me new, put on me white robes. Make me perfect like you, my Father. Father, I have sinned in so many ways. I left you and turned towards sin. It's still so hard, but with you, Lord, I can sin no more. Papa, make me like you. Make me clean and holy like you are. Make me pure, pure as light. Make me new, put on me white robes. Make me perfect like you, my Father. Time and time again, I pushed you away. I refused to listen to your voice. Father, I'm still deaf, but open my ears. Help me, Abba, and make me like you. Make me clean and holy like you are. Make me pure, pure as light. Make me new, put on me white robes. Make me perfect like you, my Father. Make me perfect like you, my Father. More love, more power, more of you in my life. More love, more power, more of you in my life. I will worship you with all of my heart. I will worship you with all of my might. I will worship you with all of my strength. Oh, you are my God. You are my God. More faith, more passion, more of you in my life. More faith, more passion, more of you in my life. I will seek your face with all of my heart. I will seek your face with all of my might. I will seek your face with all of my strength. Oh, you are my God. You are my God. Oh, you are my God. You are my
Let us say the prayer after communion of St. Thomas Aquinas. I thank you, Lord,
Almighty Father, everlasting God, for having been pleased, through no merit of mine, but of your great mercy alone, to feed me, a sinner, and your unworthy servant,
with the precious body
and blood of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. I pray that this Holy Communion may not be for my judgment and condemnation, but for my pardon and salvation. Let this Holy Communion be to me an armor of faith and a shield of goodwill, a cleansing of all vices and a rooting out of all evil desires. May it increase love and patience, humility and obedience, and all virtues. May it be a firm defense against the evil designs of all my visible and invisible enemies, a perfect quieting of all the desires of soul and body. May this Holy Communion bring about a perfect union with you, the one true God, and at last enable me to reach eternal bliss when you will call me. I pray that you bring me, a sinner, to the indescribable feast, where you, with your Son and the Holy Spirit, are to your saints true light, full blessedness, everlasting joy, and perfect happiness, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
Let us say a prayer for priests of St. Therese of Lisieux. O Jesus,
eternal priest,
Keep your priests within the shelter of your sacred heart, where none may touch them. Keep unstained their anointed hands, which daily touch your sacred body. Keep unsullied their lips, daily purple with your precious blood. Keep pure and unearthly their hearts, sealed with the sublime mark of the priesthood. Let your holy love surround them and shield them from the world's contagion. Bless their labors with abundant fruit, and may the souls to whom they minister be their joy and consolation, here and in heaven, their beautiful and everlasting crown. Amen.
Let us pray. We have partaken of the gifts of this sacred mystery, humbly imploring, O Lord, that what your Son commanded us to do in memory of him may bring us growth in charity through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
The Lord be with you.
And with your
May
spirit.
Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Go forth in peace to love and serve one another.
Thanks be to God. Mama Mary, help me be open to let the light shine through me. Mama Mary, teach me obedience, make me transparent like you. Behold the handmaid of God.
dear Lord, we thank you for giving us this gift of virtual Mass. As we heard in today's Gospel, that we need to obey your commandments as the disciples did. And Lord, you have blessed each and every one with a spirit of truth, which will assist us. Help us, Lord, so that we may listen to that spirit and we may move according to your words which you have given to us. Oh dear Mama, help us always to be transparent like you, and help us always so that we may move ahead in our life and try to be like you. As you said, always yes to whatever the Spirit told you. Teach us also to say yes to the Spirit. For this we pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Let us all say the Memorare together. Remember, O
Most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession, was left unaided. Inspired with this confidence, I fly to thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. O Queen of Heaven, rejoice now. Alleluia. Rejoice, for he who married thou despair. Alleluia. He is risen as he foretold. Alleluia. Pray for us to the Father. Alleluia. Rejoice and be glad, O Virgin Mary. Alleluia. For the Lord has truly risen. Alleluia. Let us pray. O God, you deign to give joy to the world through the resurrection of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Grant, we beseech you, that through his mother, the Virgin Mary, we may obtain the joys of everlasting life. Through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Virgin Mary,
Pray for us.
Saint Joseph,
Pray for us.
Saint Faustina,
Pray for us.
Saint Mother Teresa,
Pray for us.
Saint John Paul II,
Pray for us.
Saint Jose Maria Scriva.
Pray for us.
Let us make sign of the cross.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, friends, and have a blessed week ahead. Stay safe and take precaution. As this is the month of May, A Square has taken this initiative to pray the Holy Rosary daily, and after few minutes we'll be beginning the Holy Rosary. Do join us and I request everyone to carry a rosary along with you.
Praise the Lord, everyone. On behalf of Ace Choir, we invite you all to participate with us in this devotion of the Holy Rosary. Before we begin, I would like to narrate before you a small introduction on the Holy Rosary as said by Dom Columba Marmion, Christ, the ideal of the priest. Here is an example to help you understand the efficacy of the Rosary. You remember the story of David who vanquished Goliath? What steps did the young Israelite take to throw the giant? He struck him in the middle of the forehead with a pebble from his sling. If we regard the Philistine as representing evil and all its powers, heresy, impurity, pride, we can consider the little stones from the sling capable of overthrowing the enemy as symbolizing the Aves of the Rosary. The Aves of the Rosary. The ways of God are entirely different from our ways. To us, it seems necessary to employ powerful means in order to produce great effects. This is not God's method. Quite the contrary. He likes to choose the weakest instruments that he may confound the strong. As written in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 27, God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. Have you not often met poor old women who are most faithful to the pious recitation of the Rosary? You also must do all that you can to recite it with fervor. Get right down at the feet of Jesus. It is a good thing to make oneself small in the presence of so great a God. Let us make sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Mary, the sorrowing mother. Our Lady is there listening to the words of her Son, united to him in his suffering. When he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" What could she do? She united herself fully with the redemptive love of her Son and offered to the Father her immense sorrow, which pierced her pure heart like a sharp-edged sword. Let us begin with a hymn. Mother of Jesus and Mother of lowliness, bearing the light of the world, radiant with glory, the glory of Jesus conceived by the Spirit of God. Wondrous the moment that Apostles' Creed. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended into hell. On the third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From there he will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners,
Now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners,
Now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. As today is Sunday, we'll meditate on the glorious mystery.
The first glorious mystery, the resurrection. As we believe in Christ, our faith rekindles again and again. And this rekindling of faith is resurrection each and every time we do, in our mind, in our body, in our soul. We are weak from our mind, and hence we need to be resurrected with a new thought, like a dawn. We are weak from the body, and hence we need to be resurrected. We need resurrection of our soul also, because it is controlled many a times from the mind and body. Lord my God, please help us that we may be able to come out of laziness, of comfortness, of lukewarmness. Help us that our belief may help us to resurrect from all these things. My Lord's Mother and my mother do intercede for this intention. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
O my Jesus, forgive us our sins,
Save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Amen.
O Immaculate Heart of Mary, let the flame of your heart descend on us. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
Second glorious mystery, the Ascension. O Mama, in this I want to ask your intercession for all those people, for all of us who are crippled with pride. O Mama, help us always to acknowledge that we are nothing without the grace of Christ. And without Him, we are not even strong enough. But with Christ, we can overcome each and everything, and we are complete. Help us, Mama, so that we may never forget this truth in our lives. And each and every time the pride comes to our mind, help us so that we are struck by the thought that without Christ we are nothing. And His grace makes us complete. O Mama, do intercede. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Amen. O Immaculate Heart of Mary, let the flame of your love, of your heart, descend on us. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us.
Third glorious mystery, the descent of the Holy Spirit. We pray for all the broken families in our surrounding, so that all the members of the family can understand the real meaning of togetherness in you as a family. Mama Mary, do intercede for this intention. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
O my Jesus,
Forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Amen.
O Immaculate Heart of Mary, let the flame of your heart descend on us. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
Fourth glorious mystery, the Assumption. In this mystery, I offer all those people who spend their time worrying and in anxiety. Grant them the sincerity to recognize that many of their worries and anxieties are due to self-love, to excessive concern about what others think of them, to their sadness at having given a bad impression, to their thinking that they are not appreciated, to their seeing that they are not the center of the attention of others, in a word, to their pride. Grant them the grace to be humble, for without humility there can be no charity or any other virtue, nor there can be any real Christians. Help help them to learn to think less about themselves, their importance, their success, their own interest, and make them be more concerned about others, happy to be able to help others and serve them. Mama Mary, to intercede for this intention. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
O my Jesus,
Forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Amen.
O Immaculate Heart of Mary, let the flame of your heart descend on us. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
Fifth glorious mystery, the crowning of Our Lady, Queen of Heaven. In this mystery, I like to specially pray for all the people, those who are not able to love each other. Maybe it's among their family members, or maybe it's between their better half or in the community. Oh dear Mama, teach us how to love as you love. Help us so that we may follow the greatest commandment, what Lord Jesus has given us, to love one another. Mama Mary, do intercede for us. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners,
now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
O my Jesus,
Forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Amen.
O Immaculate Heart of Mary, let the flame of your heart descend on us. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, hail our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Amen.
Let us all kneel for the litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
Christ have mercy.
Christ have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
Christ hear us.
Christ graciously hear us.
God the Father of heaven.
Have mercy on us.
God the Son, Redeemer of the world.
Have mercy on us.
God the Holy Spirit.
Have mercy on us.
Holy Trinity, one God.
Have mercy on us.
Your response will be pray for us. Holy Mary,
Pray for us.
Holy Mother of God,
Pray for us.
Holy Virgin of Virgins,
Pray for us.
Mother of Christ,
Pray for us.
Mother of Divine Grace,
Pray for us.
Mother most pure,
Pray for us.
Mother most chaste,
Pray for us.
Mother inviolate,
Pray for us.
Mother undefiled,
Pray for us.
Mother most amiable,
Pray for us.
Mother most admirable,
Pray for us.
Mother of good counsel,
Pray for us.
Mother of our Creator,
Pray for us.
Mother of our Savior,
Pray for us.
Virgin most prudent,
Pray for us.
Virgin most venerable,
Pray for us.
Virgin most renowned,
Pray for us.
Virgin most powerful,
Pray for us.
Virgin most merciful,
Pray for us.
Virgin most faithful,
Pray for us.
Mirror of justice,
Pray for us.
Seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
cause of our joy,
Pray for us.
spiritual vessel,
Pray for us.
vessel of honor,
Pray for us.
singular vessel of devotion,
Pray for us.
mystical rose,
Pray for us.
Tower of David,
Pray for us.
Tower of ivory,
Pray for us.
House of gold,
Pray for us.
Ark of the Covenant,
pray for us.
Gate of Heaven,
Pray for us.
Morning Star,
Pray for us.
Health of the Sick,
Pray for us.
Refuge of Sinners,
Pray for us.
Comforter of the Afflicted,
Pray for us.
Help of Christians,
Pray for us.
Queen of Angels,
Pray for us.
Queen of Patriarchs,
Pray for us.
Queen of Prophets,
Pray for us.
Queen of Apostles,
Pray for us.
Queen of Martyrs,
Pray for us.
Queen of Confessors,
Pray for us.
Queen of Virgins,
Pray for us.
Queen of all saints,
Pray for us.
Queen conceived without original sin,
Pray for us.
Queen assumed into heaven,
Pray for us.
Queen of the Most Holy Rosary,
Pray for us.
Queen of Peace,
Pray for us.
Queen of Family.
Pray for us.
Your response will be, spare us, O Lord. Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world.
Spare us, O Lord.
Your response will be, graciously hear us, O Lord. Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world.
Graciously hear us, O Lord.
Your response will be, have mercy on us. Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world.
Have mercy on us,
Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God.
that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ.
Let us pray.
Grant, we beseech thee, O Lord God, that we thy servants may enjoy perpetual health of mind and body, and by the glorious intercession of the Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, be delivered from present sorrow and enjoy eternal happiness. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. We'll say the Memorare together. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession was left unaided. Inspired with this confidence, I fly to thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. Let us say the special prayer by Pope Francis during this time of pandemic COVID-19. O Mary, you shine continuously on our journey as a sign of salvation and hope. We entrust ourselves to you, health of the sick, who at the foot of the cross were united with Jesus' suffering and persevered in our faith. Protectress of the Roman people, you know our needs, and we know that you will provide, so that, as at Cana in Galilee, joy and celebration may return after this time of trial. Help us, Mother of Divine Love, to conform ourselves to the will of the Father and to do what Jesus tells to do. For he took upon himself our suffering and burdened himself with our sorrows to bring us through the cross to the joy of the resurrection. Amen. Let us end this prayer with a hymn. Help us, O star of the ocean, be with us in our strife. When we are faced with temptation, tossed by the storms of life, be with us, Mary, along the way. Guide every step we take. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Virgin Mary, pray for us. Saint Joseph, pray for us. Saint Faustina, pray for us. Saint Mother Teresa, pray for us. Saint John Paul II, pray for us. Saint Jose Maria Escriva, pray for us. Saint Dominic, pray for us. Let us make sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, friends, for joining us in this devotion of the Holy Rosary. We hope that you continue with us in this journey of the Holy Rosary throughout the month of May. We also hope that you invite your friends and family members, relatives to participate with us in this devotion. Thank you. We'll be doing every day the devotion of the Holy Rosary at 5:15 in the evening, followed by the virtual Holy Mass. Do join us.